afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Propagandacast. Lehr with me, your host Imperial Dane. Today's topic: how to deal with anti-tank guns. It does seem to be occasionally an issue some people seem to struggle with. Whenever I observe my matches, cast them, and all that, it occasionally seems that people sort of just can't quite seem to sort of fully put the end of the pack. Or says 3 anti-tank gun sausage on a pair of wheels firing cucumbers. You get the idea. So, what are the sort of general ways of dealing with an anti-tank gun? I mean, obviously, you kind of want to kill the crew. Also, very importantly, you don't want to be parked right in front of the pack 40. I mean, occasionally you'll see people just trying to take on the anti-tank gun head on, and unless the vehicle in question has some serious AoE, it's not going to be possible. I mean, Sturmpanzers, 105mm howitzers, Shermans, things like that can pull it off, but even that, it tends to be a bit risky. For most tanks, though, that's generally not going to be how you want to do it. So you might ask yourself, well, how do I want to do it, Dane? Well, overall, if you're really insistent taking on head-on, you want to use smoke. I mean, for example, pop down an off-map smoke barrage on the anti-tank gun just in front of it. You can see that far. And of course, that requires another element, which of course is reconnaissance and generally knowing where the opponent's anti-tank gun. So if you sort of know the reasonably where they are, you can sort of smoke that area. But basically, while they can still attack ground through the smoke to hit your tanks, it requires them to exert more effort to do it because, normally just want you to attack fire. So having to auto attack ground to sort of predict where the opponent's tank is, it's going to put on a lot more effort, which means they can't be managing a lot of other things. So already there's sort of a big thing you can do there. The other one, though, reason you actually want to smoke is because even if they do attack ground, the accuracy of the anti-tank weapon drops. I mean, for example, when you try to attack ground, say schwerpunted quarters with a bunch of anti-tank guns, like a lot of the shots will fly wide off the mark, despite the schwerpunted quarters being what you call a pretty easy target. And that's basically the difference they just force them to attack ground through smoke can make. It just drastically decreases the accuracy. So in that regard, if you're really insisting on taking on an anti-tank gun head on, you generally want to use smoke because it really makes it a bastard to use the anti-tank gun efficiently versus enemy armor. Otherwise, I mean, if you say you do end up in the situation, oh my goodness, I'm in front of an anti-tank gun, unless like it's sort of displaying terrible accuracy, you got smoked that way, cover up your retreat, what you generally want to do is actually just go straight at the anti-tank gun, unless there's a lot of infantry with snares like grenadiers, rifle and veterancy, conscripts with anti-tank grenades and so on there, because that way you're just quickly behind the anti-tank gun and the anti-tank has to turn around. And that's another thing, just driving around the anti-tank gun overall, just flanking it in the first place, since they are not very good at dealing with targets that's sort of swiftly moving beyond their arc of fire. So I mean, you could just sort of flank the anti-tank in the first place, you'll generally find yourself doing a lot better than attacking head-on. But if you somehow find yourself head-on, keep moving, for heaven's sake, and get behind the anti-tank and try to deal with it before then moving onwards. Or try and take another path away from it, and while the anti-tank can try and deal with your tank or vehicle. Lastly, you will have yourself a slightly better chance versus anti-tank guns. If they bunch up their anti-tank guns, that makes it even easier. If they actually split up their anti-tank guns, obviously, that is where things get trickier, because that way you can't just circle around one, because the other anti-tank gun will be able to cover the first one. And this is sort of where another key element comes in. Generally, you want infantry to be able to deal with it, preferably stuff like panzer grenadiers with assault rifles, any sort of with assault weaponry, basically submachine guns, flamethrowers, or just a large quantity of light machine guns. That way, they can quickly clear out the anti-tank guns for your tanks. Machine guns, though, can also do the trick, but obviously that's a bit more difficult to get done properly, though of course some machine guns are more suited for quickly moving up, setting up, and cutting down the anti-tank gun crew. But you sort of imagine an assault, and I've done this for example in a video on assaults, but basically just have the tanks deal with priority targets, other ones, and then have the infantry rushing in and dealing with the anti-tank weapons so you can swiftly do so and possibly steal them and turn them against your opponent's armor. But overall, as a rule of thumb, anti-tank guns sort of a high priority target in my opinion that needs to be dealt with fast, because they can veteran up reasonably fast, and once they get high levels of veterancy, they can be big threats to the armor, even the heaviest of tanks. So dealing with them swiftly is a good priority, and thus, hence the sort of video sort of providing good tactics for dealing with them. But overall, flank. Otherwise, another option is also consider using a tank as bait. That is, you send a single tank, for example, up here, and to tank and try to deal with it, and then you sort of launch the full armor assault from the front. That way, dealing with them. In that regard, bait is also a good option, so it'll make it a bit hard for them to use their anti-tank guns freely, or at least, sneak a bit around stuff there. And if they decide not to deal with the bait, then the bait tank just gets up behind and wrecks the anti-tank gun. So those are sort of some of the more general tactics in how to deal with anti-tank guns. And if you do deal with them, you'll find yourself anti-tank guns can be reasonably well dealt with. And in fact, once you tend to take care of the anti-tank, particularly if they're more in any defense, the defense will usually quickly crumble, because anti-tank guns can tend to be quite integral in those. Arcade methods being sort of able to cloak and so assist guns, that they aren't doing that so much. Of course, in theory, they could always do it more, are a bit trickier. But when it comes to the arcade methods, it's sort of more about trying to remember their behavior. In this case, you try to bait them out. But again, it is tricky, and these tactics don't apply to them as much because the cannon methods perform so differently from the other anti-tank guns. They might as well require, you know, other video. But overall, when it comes to the cannon methods, just lots of infantry with, you know, weapons that can quickly tear them apart. That way, you can sort of try and punish them. But otherwise, try to just predict their behavior, which of course is, you know, more or less another video, just trying to figure out how your opponent is moving. And in that regard, you know, the whole map reading thing and understanding how your opponents would trust move about the battlefield is, you know, not a half bad idea. So I think that sort of largely covers it. Sort of a topic I think I might as well do, because I've seen, you know, again, quite a few people sort of struggling to an extent with anti-tank guns of late in some way or the other. So a video sort of quickly covering it with some of the more least personal tactics I prefer. But overall, you know, try to flank them. Preferably use infantry. If you have to use armor, of course, definitely flank or use smoke. I mean, smoke is really just a good counter to anti-tank guns because it really screws over things for them. So, hopefully you learned something from this. Hopefully it's been also some bit of enjoyment to you. If it has, you know, subscribe, like, share, and comment. And of course, if you like what I do to the donating or pledging on Patreon, links on the video description. Every little bit helps me out a ton. And of course, a big thanks to all my Patreon supporters. This is Imperial Lynching. Cheers, and thank you for watching, and see you all for another video. Cheers.